I found out I was apparently running a community charging station when my electric bill tried to bankrupt me, and no, I don't own a Tesla farm, I don't have a secret crypto mine humming in my barn. And I'm definitely not powering a nightclub out back, unless you count the raccoons throwing raves at 2 a.m. It was just me, my house, and a very confused electric meter spinning like it had someplace important to be. The bill came folded like always, same innocent little envelope, same logo, same thank you for being a valued customer. Energy except the number on it looked like the utility company accidentally billed me for the entire county. I read it once, blinked, read it again, and just stood there in my kitchen while the refrigerator hummed behind me like it was laughing at me. And the worst part, I wasn't even running anything crazy. According to that piece of paper, I'd used more electricity that month than I did during last year's record heat wave, the one where I had 2 industrial fans, a walk-in freezer, and a dehydrator running around the clock like I was trying to preserve food for the apocalypse. This month, nothing new. No guests, no new equipment, no power-hungry projects. Just me and the quiet hum of country life, the kind of quiet where you can hear your own bad decisions echoing. So I did what any slightly annoyed, slightly paranoid homeowner does. I went full detective mode. I started walking the property like I was starring in my own low-budget crime show. I flipped breakers. I shut off lights. I unplugged things one by one. Office lights off, check. Barn breaker off, check. Fans off. Water heater, checked. Well pump, checked. I even unplugged the coffee maker, and I want you to understand how serious it has to get before a grown adult willingly unplugs a coffee maker. That was rock bottom. Then I went out to the meter, and it was still spinning. Not wildly, not like a cartoon, just steady, calm, confident. Like it knew something I didn't. Like it had a little secret, and it was enjoying the slow drip of it. Next morning, same thing. Late that night, same thing. I stood there in the dark, crickets chirping, cold air biting my ears, watching that little metal will tick forward like a silent robbery. That's when the itchy voice in the back of my head started whispering, real soft, someone's messing with you. So I widened the search. I walked past the barn, out toward the fence line where the weeds grow tall and lazy between my property and my neighbors. The moon was barely doing its job, just enough light to make everything look like a scene from a horror movie where the monster is unpaid bills. And that's when I saw it. Bright orange, half buried in brush, like some kind of electrical snake. An extension cord. At first I honestly thought it was junk, leftover from some old project, or something a previous owner abandoned. But the cord didn't look abandoned. It looked intentional, like it had purpose. So I followed it, step by step, pushing through weeds, heart beating a little faster, the cord leading me like breadcrumbs into a fairy tale where the witch doesn't eat children. She just steals utilities and files complaints. And no joke, it ran straight through a tiny gap in the fence slats and into my neighbor's backyard, plugged clean into her outdoor outlet. Now, if you've never had a Karen living next to you, I'm genuinely happy for you. That means your nervous system still works the way God intended. Mine? My Karen was the HOA enforcer without technically being the HOA. Clipboard energy in human form. The kind of woman who patrol walks like she's conducting inspections for the Department of Law Compliance. She once filed a complaint about someone's patio chairs being too festive. She fined a guy because his mailbox looked overly friendly. That's the level of petty we're dealing with. And now she was siphoning electricity off my barn like it was a public utility. No knock. No note. No, hey neighbor, mind if I borrow a little juice? Nothing. Just plug-and-play entitlement. I stood there for a long minute, not even mad yet. Just stunned. Because you don't expect to discover you've become an involuntary energy sponsor. You don't expect to find out your barn is basically the neighborhood's unofficial charging station because someone decided your electricity was community property. I could have yanked the cord right then. I could have marched over and banged on her door. But Karen feeds on confrontation. Drama is her oxygen. If I gave her a scene, she'd savor it like dessert. So I did the one thing she'd never expect. I got quiet. I pulled out my phone and started documenting like I was building a case for court, pictures of the cord, close-up of the outlet, video of the meter spinning. Then I flipped my barn breaker off. Her porch light blinked out. I flipped it back on. Blink, back on. Off again. Blink, off again. That's when this stopped being about money and started being about principle. Because if someone will steal from you while pretending to be the neighborhood's moral authority, that's not just theft. That's a personality defect. That night, after dark, I sat on my porch with the breaker off, watching her house like I was monitoring a science experiment. 10 minutes passed. I flipped it on. Her porch lit up like clockwork. Oh, she wasn't just stealing power. She was relying on it. So I walked over and knocked on her door. She opened wearing a velvet robe, holding lemon water like it was imported wine, and she had that tight-lipped HOA smile already loaded and ready, like she'd been waiting her whole life for someone to give her a reason to correct them. I kept it calm, friendly even. "Hey, just wondering if you're aware there's an extension cord running from your house into my barn." She blinked, tilted her head. "What cord?" I showed her the photo. "Oh, that," she said, waving her hand like I'd pointed out a leaf in her yard. "It's just a little power. No big deal." "No big deal." I pointed at the cord like it might bite. "You're using my electricity." She didn't miss a beat. "I figured you wouldn't mind. You weren't using it anyway." You ever hear something so entitled your brain stalls for a second? Like the sentence hits you and your mind just blue screens? That was me. Because the logic was so confident. Like she genuinely believed electricity was a vibe, not a paid service. I asked if she understood that was theft. She rolled her eyes. "Don't be dramatic." "Dramatic," I repeated, smiling in that slow way you smile when your last shred of patience packs a bag and leaves the house. "All right," I said, still calm. "If you're going to keep using it, I'll send you a bill." She laughed. Actually laughed. "Oh sure. Go ahead." And right there, that was the moment she lost. Because she didn't believe she could be outplayed. Karen's whole identity was control. She thought she had a monopoly on rules and that everyone else was too scared, too tired, or too polite to push back. So that night, I created something beautiful. I created the HOA Utilities Compliance Division. Completely fictional. Absolutely official looking. I drafted an invoice, nice formatting, clean lines, fancy language, the kind of paperwork that makes your stomach drop even when you haven't done anything wrong. I labeled it like it was routine, like it came from a bored office worker who lives for forms. Residential energy redistribution fee, $2.14. Unauthorized extension line service charge, $18.75. Infrastructure draw surcharge, $25. Total, $45.89. I added a fake contact number, a fake ethics committee, even a warning about formal review. It looked legitimate enough to make any reasonable person pause, and it looked terrifying enough to make Karen's ego refuse to admit confusion. I slipped it into her mailbox after dark like a petty little utility fairy. The next morning, I watched on my security camera. Karen came out, opened her mailbox, saw the invoice, and you could see the gears turning. Confused. Suspicious. Processing. She looked around like someone might be watching. Which, to be fair, someone was. The next day, taped to my mailbox, was a tiny Ziploc bag with 3 crisp dollar bills and a sticky note that read, "Payment enclosed. Hope this clears things up." I nearly dropped my coffee. She paid it. And here's where things get interesting, because I didn't stop. Next week, another invoice. Slightly different charges. $38. She paid. Week 3, $3.17, paid. It became a routine. Like I was a very small, very annoying subscription service she couldn't cancel without admitting she didn't understand it. And because I'm only human, I got creative. Lawn reflection interference fee, $4.70. Unauthorized shade cast, $6.30. Bird deterrence administration fee, $8.80. She paid every single one. Never questioned it. Never knocked. Never called. Because asking would mean admitting she didn't know what was happening, and Karen would rather eat drywall than admit that. Weeks went by and I started to think, okay, maybe she'll stop using the cord. Nope. Then came the twist, the part one didn't see coming. Week 7, Karen marched into the HOA meeting waving one of my invoices like she'd cracked a conspiracy. Like she was about to expose me and save the neighborhood from fraud. Picture a middle school gym, folding chairs, retirees with printed agendas, that stale smell of coffee and carpet cleaner. Karen stood at the front, wearing a scarf indoors like she was testifying before Congress. She demanded justice. She accused me loudly of impersonating an official utilities officer. She said I was harassing her. She said I was abusing my power. And I was sitting there thinking, oh no, Karen. You just dragged yourself into the light. The HOA president, nice enough guy, tired eyes, the kind of man who regrets volunteering for anything, asked, "Why was he charging you for electricity?" The room went quiet. Karen froze for half a second. Just half a second. Then she tried to pivot like a politician. "It was just a porch light," she said, dismissive, like that made it fine. I stood up, calm as could be, and I didn't raise my voice because you don't have to raise your voice when you have receipts. I explained the cord. I showed the photos. I played the video of her porch lights flickering on and off when I flipped my breaker. You could hear the little gasps ripple through the room, like collective betrayal, like people realizing the self-appointed rule enforcer was stealing from a neighbor. Karen tried to laugh it off. It was nothing. So I handed the HOA president a folder. Every invoice, every payment, every note, all documented like a tax audit. He flipped through them, and at first he looked angry, then confused, then he started reading charges out loud, and the room started doing that thing where people try not to laugh but can't help it. Unauthorized shadow casting 42 cents. Someone snorted. The president tried to keep a straight face and failed so hard he had to clear his throat twice. Karen's jaw tightened. Her scarf trembled like it was holding in rage for her. And then the hammer dropped. They voted. Formal warning for me, denied. Suspension from leadership for Karen, approved. Removal from the board, approved. 11-0. Karen sat there staring forward like her brain was trying to rewrite reality. Then she stood up, grabbed her purse, and walked out without a word, heels echoing off the linoleum like the end credits of a very satisfying movie. But the real finale came later because someone, and I'm not saying who, tipped off the electric company. A week after the meeting, a utility inspector showed up. Hard hat, clipboard, zero sense of humor. He traced the line, documented everything, took photos like he was photographing a crime scene. Unauthorized usage, tampering, unmetered consumption. And utility companies don't do passive-aggressive. They do paperwork. A couple weeks later, I heard through the neighborhood grapevine that Karen got hit with over $60,000 in penalties and investigation fees. Apparently the electric company doesn't care if you're the queen of the HOA. Stealing power is stealing power. After that, Karen wasn't feared. She was avoided. HOA threads went dead whenever she posted. Neighbors crossed the street like she was contagious. Then one morning, a quiet little for sale sign popped up in her yard like a white flag. A few weeks later, moving truck. Early morning, cold air, the sound of cardboard boxes, and exhausted silence. Karen came out in that same velvet robe, loading things like she was trying to outrun daylight itself. I stood on my porch with my coffee, watching the end of an era. She glanced my way. I raised my mug and said, real polite, "Don't forget to unplug." She didn't respond, just climbed in her car and drove off. And I swear the neighborhood exhaled like we'd all been holding our breath for years. We had a cookout that weekend. Music, kids riding bikes, people laughing louder than usual. Someone even put out bright, cheerful patio chairs, the exact kind Karen once tried to ban for being too festive. Nobody complained. Nobody fined anybody. The sky didn't fall. The world kept turning. And standing there with a paper plate in my hand, I realized something I wish I'd learned earlier in life. Entitlement survives on silence. It grows when people assume it's not worth the trouble. It thrives when everyone shrugs and says, "That's just how she is." Karen didn't lose because of a fake invoice. She lost because for the first time someone calmly documented her behavior and held up a mirror, and once people saw her clearly, they couldn't unsee it. Sometimes justice isn't loud. Sometimes it's not a big dramatic showdown. Sometimes it's $3 at a time and the patience to let someone's own arrogance do the heavy lifting. So here's the question I can't stop thinking about. Where's the line between clever payback and becoming the villain yourself? Was I petty or was I just creative? And if someone quietly takes from you, do you confront them head on, or do you let them unravel in public where they can't twist the story? I want to hear your take, seriously. Have you ever dealt with someone who acted like the rules didn't apply to them? Did you fight back? Did you play it smart? Or did you just let karma handle it? And if you fought back, do you feel proud of how you did it? Or do you still wonder if you went too far?